All right, this is August 19th, 2024 at Delray Beach Nunes Treasure in the Traditions Workshop, Tradition 2 with Elizabeth B.L. Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Carol. My name is Elizabeth. I am an alcoholic, and this is Tradition 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. That is actually the short form. Long form is take off the last sentence. It's shorter. I'm very honored to be speaking at this group tonight and to share a little bit about my experience. I understand what I share tonight will be my understanding, my experience, and my application of Tradition 2 in my life. So if you're welcome to ask me questions, and if you hear something that's wrong, you're welcome to correct me. I've been sober since January 3rd, 1988, but I didn't get into service until really the last few years. When COVID hit, I was bored, and someone asked if I wanted to help start a newcomer group. And so I got involved, and I was literally dropped neck deep into service I had been taught the traditions, but I didn't know how to apply them until I had to, until I had to learn, because things happened. And since then, it's been an amazing experience to continue to learn. And I'm so grateful that I get to continue to grow in my recovery. I see the traditions as a logical next step to the personal recovery through the steps. If you think about the AA triangle, recovery is at the bottom, and that's my personal recovery through the 12 steps. And in order to stay unselfish and not just think about me, the next logical place to go is the traditions, which is the unity. And I know last week we heard about unity in Tradition 1 from Deb. And it's, if I'm still being selfish, I can't think about unity. I can't even be part of a group in a way that is helpful to anyone. So it's so important that that's the foundation. And today I was thinking about the fact that, recovery being the foundation of the triangle, and then the service structure is an upside down triangle with the groups at the top. They're the ones that are the most important because there's not a hierarchy. It's all about us as members and what I'm bringing to the table and how I'm participating and how I'm showing up and being part of something bigger than me. And I don't think that I could have done that. Definitely not. I had many years of being dry. I didn't understand what it meant to really live this program in my life. I didn't learn about that until I actually got on Zoom and got exposed to more messages of recovery. And then I did, and I started to have a different experience in life. So I was able to show up more. But just like the traditions have been created based on mistakes, either that AA made or that other groups made, and they learned from that experience, it's the same thing that happened with me personally. I had to be part of things and make mistakes first, and feel that pain. Being part of a group once where I came in, and we all know these people, right? I'm in the group 5 minutes and I have all these ideas for things they need to do differently, and started talking about them because surely you all want the benefit of my experience, and my ideas are great. And I have no idea what I'm even talking about because I haven't even been in the group. They actually dispatched 2 people to talk to me. And I'll never forget this one woman. I actually talked to her recently. She had this Australian accent. And she said, "You've been in the group 5 minutes," and the way she said it just really, put me in my place. And I was really hurt because I couldn't see it at the time. It took me a little while to really look back and realize that, because I was starting to learn to use this program in my life and get humble and slow down and see what was going on. When it first happened, I couldn't see it, but I was stepping on toes. And I wasn't used to looking at other people and thinking about their experience with me, I've researched a lot of different things I'm relying a little bit on my notes tonight, but it's been really interesting, the things that I've learned. I found some great resources that I didn't previously know about. And I love where it says in AA Comes of Age, it says on page 96, that the traditions point straight at many of our individual defects. We have to lay aside pride and resentment, personal and group sacrifice, which I now can do because I am recovered. I'm able to participate and not be about me. The first tradition we heard about, I can't recover unless there is a group. I have to be able to put common welfare first for the group to continue and sacrifice my own desires and ambitions or actions that could cause serious division. And I'm going to share a little bit about my personal experience a little bit later on, but I have been in a group where principles were not being followed and it caused huge division in the group to the point that, I ended up leaving. So I'm going to look at the second tradition. The first part says for our group purpose. Well, what is the group purpose? That's a good question. That is talked about in tradition 5. Each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. And, there's so many different AA groups and so many different types of groups. Each group has its own character. We carry the message of alcoholics, but we do it in different ways, but no matter what the group does, all group activities can return to the simple question: is this carrying the message to the alcoholic who still suffers? And what message is that? And I grew up in the land of open discussion meetings, so I can't tell you, I can tell you I heard things about how to fix somebody's truck and where they should go to fix their truck. Heard a lot about things that I learned in therapy. It wasn't until later on that I got a big book sponsor who taught me what the program of recovery was all about that came out of the book. So there were some pretty interesting messages, and there still are. There's still a lot of messages, but here in a minute, we're going to talk about God. My group is a newcomers meeting, and we talk about that all of our activities, are they relevant to a person who is in early sobriety? Are they relevant to a newcomer just beginning their recovery? When we have speakers come, no matter what topic they're talking about, we remind them, please make it relevant for the early sobriety person. So somebody doesn't come in and do like an hour lecture about, method and details and history of why we do the 4-step the way we do. Don't kill them with info. Make it relevant, make it simple. Remember, these people are early. So that's the group, that's the message that our group carries. The second thing is, does it uphold the 12 traditions is our consideration always in our group. And, we've had to ask people things like, can you not say your last name on a recording so you can help our group uphold the 11th tradition? Because we record the verbal message of our speakers. The next part of this is, for our group purpose, there is one ultimate authority, a loving God. And, in AA Comes of Age, it talks about, there's 2 authorities in AA. One of them is God, and the other one is John Barleycorn, alcohol. If I don't practice these principles in my life, I'm going to end up getting drunk. So I'm not going to be any use to anybody, including myself or the group. So following principles, we get punished, And I called somebody once asking for feedback about something that had to do with a group, and she reminded me. She said, the thing is, we have a way out of here too. I can either live these principles, or at some point I get taken out. And if that person is not living principles, then they're not going to end up being part of the group because they're not going to be sober. And that's a really good thing to remember. It's so many times in AA, I see there's no gray area. It really is, you're all in or you're not. As far as the ultimate authority, when I start to depend on God, the first time that I started to really do that was when I did my 3rd step. I read the passage before the 3rd step where it talked about how I was running my life, on Elizabeth's best ideas. And when I can finally see the truth about that, then I don't want to do it anymore. Give me another option. This is terrible. I'm finally seeing everything I've been running from forever. And one of the things that I did, the book tells us on page 53, I get to make a choice to believe. And that means I put aside the things I think are important, and I stop thinking about the future or the past and being everywhere but right here in this moment. And I ask God, how do you want me to be right here in this moment? And that's what I get to carry as a member of a group now. When I'm in my group, And I'm going to talk about what a group conscience is here in a minute. But I can always trust that God is gonna come through, considering a few things. One of them is, the concept of the God factor, right? It's funny when business people come into AA and they want to structure everything like crazy, right? And have a million rules and everything's really fixed and we need to define this and we need to define that. And you can see it, right? And we had that recently. We had feedback about our group has bylaws that are written out, but there's built-in flexibility. There's things that aren't defined for a reason. We don't have a sobriety requirement on our speakers. I mean, they need to be sober that day for sure. That would definitely be one of them because they can't even talk if they're not. But we don't, I don't know that we're not going to see somebody who's, 30 days sober and carrying an amazing message. There's a lot of people in our group that do a lot of service that are very young in recovery and they're killing it. They have dove into their program. So, and I also learned that, there's a statement, I don't know if I'm allowed to share this because it's not AA approved, but it's something out of Sermon on the Mount, and it's do not forswear thyself. Do not, or swear not at all. And the concept of that is if I pre-decide and say what I'm going to do in the future, then God doesn't have any room. God doesn't have any way to come in and do anything in my life. So that reminds me to stay in the moment. Anything that's happening down the road, when people ask me for guidance about decisions, I'm like, well, is that thing sitting in your life right at this very moment, or is it like 3 days away? Because let it go for now, because I'm blocked if I'm worried about 3 days from now. I'm not present. I have no concept of letting God in my life. God is in the moment. And so I ask God in the moment, I remember many times in my last group, I would get so worried about the home group meeting coming up. We had an 8-month, my last 8 months there were pretty brutal. There was a lot of division. There was a lot of personalities, and it was going through an adolescent phase that needed the traditions a lot stronger than it had. And I would dread the meetings and I would start thinking about, oh God, what about this? And what about that? And I would easily forget this because I'm somebody that, like a lot of people, right? I don't deal with conflict well. I don't want to deal with it at all. I don't want to go if I think there's going to be conflict. And I had to remind myself, God is going to take care of this. And God is going to shine through, in this situation, so there's got to be a balance between structure and flexibility so that God can come through. I like the statement about least possible organization for a group. Right? Do we need more organization of this or less? And by the way, least possible doesn't mean no organization. I've been in that situation and it's pretty chaotic. And it's always down to just a couple of people doing all the work, and then of course you get in trouble for that. But it's difficult. So, but I like the idea of that built-in flexibility, finding that path between extremes. What is that? And that's where I trust and rely on God. And I ask God for guidance for that in every situation when it comes to the group. The idea of moving slowly, groups shouldn't make rash decisions. If something needs to be tabled so that people can become more informed, which I'm going to talk about informed here in a few minutes, then that's a really good idea, because if I move too quickly, then God hasn't had a chance to weigh in. And those are, even if someone's not loving the word God, these are principles, right? It's move slowly. The minority opinion. They talk about that. And that's making sure, we need to come to a consensus as a group. I forget the word, something about unanimity, which is hard for me to pronounce. But that we come to a consensus. It might take time, but some people, especially people new in recovery, I was in a group situation once, and I was on a committee, and 2 of the people on the committee had a lot of really difficult things going on in their life. And I saw them just trying to put fires out. But in trying to put the fires out, it was more like throwing gasoline on the whole situation. Rather than stepping back, going, all right, how do we practice the principles here? How do we take time with this? And really what was happening didn't even need an audience at the time. Giving it more audience just made it louder. And it actually wasn't something that we should have even handled or addressed. It should have been addressed with a sponsor. It was really interesting. And I learned a lot. So moving slowly, you know, unless it's, I mean, I don't know about, there's crises that come up, you know, and that's definitely, we'll talk about that with trusted servant here in a minute. And then let's talk about loving God. You know, I read this wonderful series of essays by a guy named Dennis F. And I'm so curious about going to this group. I found this thing on the web. And he was talking about, you know, trust and trusting the group conscience, trusting God, you know, looking at other members of the group as being, you know, loving expressions of God in the group. And it really took me a minute. I'm one of those people that has about 15 walls up, right? Ask my husband. He knocked them all down amazingly well when we started dating. But you know, I'm a hard cracked shell to break, right? And I've been betrayed in my life, and I have a hard time trusting people, you know, and I don't mean to be that way. It's definitely something I have to take to God a lot, but I love the idea of looking at people and thinking, you know, I love phrases like love or fear. You know, every situation you can say, am I acting out of love or am I acting out of fear? And I love having found that in this essay about tradition too, that if I look at the other members with love and think of them as expressions of love, you know, then everything is better for sure. So, and then let's look at the last part. It says, as he may express himself in our group conscience. What is the group conscience? I'm going to read directly from AA literature. The group conscience is the collective conscience of the group membership, and this represents substantial unanimity on one issue before definitive action is taken. This is achieved by the group members through the sharing of full information, individual points of view, and the practice of AA principles. You know, and full information. In the practice, I read about experience, you know, and the concepts, the right of participation is really good. That's concept 4. And what it means is if I'm not practicing anything in the group, if I'm not serving in the group, if I'm not doing anything in the group, I don't have experience. If I have no experience with an issue in the group, I have no experience, you know, then I'm not informed. Then, you know, I probably shouldn't say anything about it. I should leave it to other people who have more information. If I'm going to go run in there and talk about stuff that I don't know anything about, then I'm just trying to control. And I love thinking about that. You know, all of this requires humility. It's, you know, the idea of rotation so that people can come in and experience things. I remember early on when Zoom was, you know, early in the pandemic, we were trying to figure out how to get service covered and then greet people as they came into the meeting. Well, in an in-person meeting, you can have somebody handing out readings over at the other side of the room and then have people have the greeters at the door. You can't do that on Zoom, right? So, because you got to all share this digital space. And so I said, well, why don't we have service show up 15 minutes early? That way we can get any replacements out of the way by like 10 till, and then we can just greet people as they come in. And this woman who'd never chaired the meeting, you know, she kept like, she said, we're not Ford or GE. We shouldn't be this. We shouldn't have to show up early and all this stuff. And she was really mad. And I thought, you know, and it wasn't that long. I thought, she's never chaired the meeting. Let her try and not have a chat host at 2 minutes till the meeting starts, you know, and see how that feels, you know, and then you're not ready for the newcomers coming in. So it's really important, you know, that I have the experience that if I'm talking about something or bringing something up, and if I don't, I should trust the people that do, you know. So daily experience informs and instructs the conscience too, you know, being part of the group, you know, being part of a home group. My old group, we just threw everybody in the home group. You can attend 3 times and then be part of the home group, and we might never see those people again. This group, if someone stops attending, because my group meets at 4 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes people can come to the group when they first get sober, but then they get their life back and they get a job and they can't show up for that meeting anymore, you know? And I tell people, you know, a home group is like a sponsor, you know, it doesn't work if you don't use it. If you're not there letting us get to know you and participating and being part of the group, then just saying you have a home group doesn't mean anything. There's no point. So, you know, in this experience, I've been in a new home group since January. It's been about like, you know, if you can't come, you know, we love you. Please visit when you can. You know, we'd love to have you, but please find a group that you can attend regularly so people can get to know you. You know, because there's that day that's going to come. You know, I went through something in 2022, and it was my home group that helped. I relied on my home group more than the steps, more than service, although service was kind of part of it. You know, they helped me get through this hard time. Really, more, I didn't even expect it. The way it all happened just kind of happened. But thank God I was sharing with people in my home group about what was happening in my life. And I wasn't isolating, you know, like I have many years in AA. So, you know, that's really important, that participation. And if you're just visiting every now and then, you really don't know how the group is changing or what the needs are of the group. So how are you going to be able to participate in agenda items in a business meeting? You know, you won't even know what's going on. On Zoom, you know, we also, like, our group gets a lot of drunk people. We've had to come up with methods for dealing with drunk people. I'm serious. You know what's amazing, and I didn't even realize this, but Zoom has reduced the barrier for entry for alcoholics to AA. They can show up while they're still drinking and just listen. We've heard from people that are like, I've been off camera for the last 2 weeks, you know, and now I'm here on day one. It's amazing. But we've also had to come up with some, you know, some methods. Well, if you're not coming to the meeting, you don't know what we're talking about, you know, that this is happening. Let's talk about being informed. An informed group conscience is very important. What does that mean? Not only does it mean the stuff I've been talking about, the participation, but it also means being informed about AA's principles. What am I upholding? When I say I'm upholding the 12 traditions at my group, what does that mean? What am I upholding, right? I'm going to read this straight out. This is straight from the AA group pamphlet, I believe. The group conscience is the collective conscience of the group membership. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, and I've read part of this already. And thus represents substantial unanimity on an issue before definitive action is taken. This is achieved by the group members through the sharing of full information, individual points of view, and the practice of AA principles. Here it is. To be fully informed requires a willingness to listen to minority opinions with an open mind. On sensitive issues, the group works slowly, discouraging formal motions until a clear sense of collective view emerges. Placing principles before personalities, the membership is wary of dominant opinions. Its voice is heard when a well-informed group arrives at a decision. The result rests on more than a yes or no count, precisely because it is the spiritual expression of the group conscience. The term informed group conscience implies that pertinent information has been studied and all views have been heard before the group votes. And in my group, we have a steering committee that acts as the informed group conscience in our group. And that means we move slowly. We ask others, how have you all dealt with something? We find information if we need to. We don't just vote on things until we feel that we are fully informed, and we move slowly. And, you know, the minority opinion is so important. And you know, there have been times I've thought, I've come into a group and had one opinion, but then there was somebody, especially somebody who's brand new. And of course it's a newcomers meeting. So the newcomer is really important in our group. And they come up with a point of view that I didn't even consider, you know, and that's been really humbling in such a positive way for me. It has made me really slow down and keep my mouth shut so much more. You know, it says we have a, where's it say? Our leaders are but trusted servants. Let me see. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. And it's interesting that people love to say there's no leaders in AA. Yes, there are. There's a beautiful essay in the service manual. It's after concept 9, I believe. And one time when I was having trouble in a group, my sponsor sent me to read it, and she was laughing, right? She's like, my sponsor's 52 years sober now, and she was in AA service for like 35 years up to the national level. And she's just tickled to death that I'm getting involved in all this, right? So she sends me to read things. And that was a great essay. And it said that, you know, when you're in a position of responsibility in AA, you know, one lady said, when you start speaking in AA, when you start doing service, you're no longer invisible. There's a great responsibility with that. But it also means you're going to receive criticism. You're going to receive constructive criticism and destructive criticism. And I have definitely received both, and it was painful. And I don't have time to go into it, but I'm really glad that I read that, because I had to look at how I was affecting other people in my group. Some of the stuff was even stuff I couldn't help, but I've become more aware. I've asked people, if I step on your toes and I'm not aware of it, please know that I want to do better. I want to improve. And I want you to be able to tell me, it's really important to me. But I do have a little bit of an other's blindness due to another condition that I also have. And I've asked people for help with that. I really do care and I want to do better, but sometimes I screw up. And I promise you, I want you to tell me. The other thing about trusted servants, we're all equal. This tradition tells us that we're all equal. Can I have like 2 more minutes? Is that okay, Carol? Okay. Because I know I only have 4 left, but I'm going to go as fast as I can. The thing about leadership in AA is to lead by example, not govern or mandate or control. And, I love watching people grow in service. I love giving off jobs to people, I don't need to be the one in charge. I don't need to be the center of attention or anything, get praise or anything like that. And I'm really grateful that I have that quality, because it's just so beautiful to see people, like we have people coming up in service in our group. Tonight we had a couple of people helping brand new newcomers that were like on, I think 60 and 90 days. And they were the ones helping the brand new newcomers. And that was just beautiful to see. And it talks about in this tradition, the difference between an elder statesman and a bleeding deacon. An elder statesman can recognize the wisdom in the GC of the newer members, things that can change. They're open to input. They're quiet and humble. They attract, not promote. They don't get resentful over any reduced status, lead by example, and they can sit on the sidelines patiently awaiting development and have sound judgment. A bleeding deacon is the one that thinks the group can't do without them. They don't have principles. They're conniving for re-election. They're consumed with self-pity. I met a guy once who, asked, it was kind of funny because I think he thought I didn't have much time. He goes, how long have you been sober? He was mad because of something we had to talk to him about. He was being verbally abusive to a speaker. And that's not cool, and he ended up talking to me. How long have you been sober? I'm like, well, 36 years. Well, he had 38. So I guess he should have been listened to. Anyway, he was pretty mad at me. I've seen that. I mean, I've definitely seen, I do a lot of admin work in Facebook groups too. And you see people coming in and talking down to people. And I remind them, in working with others, it says we don't talk down to people. We share our experience, strength, and hope. That's in the forewords. So that's important, and it's supported by our literature. Trusted servant. I'm not capable of doing everything. So I trust the people that are, and a trusted servant is chosen for their abilities. My home group member B and I are both really good at writing things like bylaws. We love the details. We catch all the details. It's been great to have her. She and I both don't work. So we have a lot of time to give to our group. Our group is really lucky that we have some people like that. And it's great that God is using me that way. How beautiful, and self-esteem and ego are 2 different things. I can feel good about what I can bring to my group and be happy that God is using me that way, and not have an ego about it or think that other people can't do it or anything like that. And hopefully if I carry that spirit with me all the time, then other people can trust. I forget to trust. We have, a whole security team, and somebody will be handling someone that I don't know. You get all kinds in the, you don't know what they're doing. They're messing with their camera, and you don't know if it's a Zoom bomber or a regular person. And sometimes I'll jump in and think I need to save the day. And luckily now I'm in a group with a lot of people that are faster than me, and they're handling it, But there have been times that I questioned what other people were doing, and I was reminded, hey, you can trust these people to be doing their job. They're doing a good job. Stop thinking that you're the one that has to step in. And being trusted brings with it a responsibility to look at my own actions and grow spiritually, you know. You know, as a group member, I also need to uphold group decisions and not impose my own authority. Oh, I'm over now. I'm almost done. Hold on here. And, you know, my personal experience is that I've made a lot of mistakes. And just like with the traditions, how they were created, that's what happened for me too. You know, I don't care about something until I experience it, right? Why do I even care about your solution if I don't realize that I have a problem? The same thing happened with me with the traditions and being in a group. First, I stepped on toes in another group. Then I was in a group where there weren't enough people to uphold the 12 traditions. And I didn't know that because I didn't ask. I just figured people with 29 and 39 years sober knew about the traditions and cared about them just like me, because I will give you attributes that you don't have, because that's a character defect of mine. And I'm just so grateful you want to be in a group with me. I don't even ask you. You know, in my home group I'm in now, I definitely, when I helped found it and we talked about it. We all talked about, do we care about this? And everyone who helped found that group cared about it. We care about upholding the 12 traditions in our group, and we make sure to do it. And then in this essay that I found, it was really cool. It said that the step asks the question and the tradition answers it. And there was this thing about, you know, we're being restored to sanity in step 2. And then I practice it by trusting the group and allowing God to speak through the group conscience. And I thought that was beautiful, that I have the ability now to go ahead and let myself, you know, my individual self get subdued and trust the group conscience, and that God is going to speak through that group conscience. And to wrap up, I want to read something from AA tradition, how it developed. AA is both a democracy and, as AA co-founder Bill W. put it, a benign anarchy, a perfect combination for those of us who often rebelled against taking any orders. Among us, the spirit of collaboration is strong. Our leaders do not drive by mandate, but instead lead by example. Where once we obstinately stood against everyone and everything, we come to recognize the wisdom of the group and to follow its guidance. All right, thank you.